you're in, okay.
Try that again. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of Haywards Heath Town Council on Monday, the 21st of September, 2020, via Zoom video conferencing at 7:30. Right. First of all, we will go into a roll call, please, everyone. Christopher Ash Edwards.
Present.
Richard Bates.
Present.
Claire Cheney. Rachel Cromie.
Present.
Sandy Ellis. Christopher Evans. Christopher Evans.
Present.
Stephanie Inglesfield.
Present.
Matthew Jeffers.
Present.
James Knight.
Present.
Clive Leband.
Present.
Jack Langley.
Present.
Howard Munden.
Present.
Richard Nicholson.
Present.
Mike Pulfer.
Present.
Sujan Wikramachi.
Present.
Great, thank you very much. Right, we do have a speaker, Nigel Allison Ryan, from item 3. There aren't any other public speakers, so they'll be muted.
Mayor, can I interrupt you on a point of order? Councillor Evans has arrived for the roll call.
Thank you. Right. First of all, item 1, the council prayer. Dear God, please help and guide us in our deliberations on the matters before us this evening, to make sound decisions whilst being respectful to others. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Right, item 2, to note any apologies for absence.
Apologies for absence from Councillor Ellis and Councillor Cheney due to holiday commitments.
Thank you. Right, okay. Mr. Nigel Allison Ryan is going to speak for item 3 on the public forum, and this is around the Clare Hall debate. Nigel?
Yes. Okay. So thank you all for having me. I'm just speaking about the issue of Clare Hall because I just want to say a few words due to the fact that I think it's very sad that Clare Hall looks like it's going to be closing. But quite frankly, I think it's a huge opportunity for Haywards Heath. Having lived in Haywards Heath for over 25 years and having worked in the arts and culture, I think it's a potentially massive opportunity. And if we can look at the loss of the hall as being a potential for establishing something new, something vibrant, something exciting for the town. As I say, having lived here for as long as I have, and having known people refer to Haywards Heath as a commuter town, I'd quite like to see it become known as a destination rather than a commuter town. And I think the potential for developing something in the wake of Clare Hall would be amazing. We still don't have a proper theatre. We don't have an art gallery. We don't have a cinema. And I think it'd be great if something could be made of the loss of Clare Hall. It's really unfortunate. I've been there many times and enjoyed all sorts of events there. But I think now is the time to look forward and to see how we can develop something that could be much more appropriate for a town that I think is growing exponentially. It's attracting people from Brighton, from London, from all over the place. People would normally be used to having the sort of venue that one gets in Brighton and London, which we don't seem to have. I think it'd be great if we could look at this as the opportunity I think it is. I don't think I have long to talk. I could go on forever about this because I'm very passionate about the arts and culture, and I think having been involved in the work I do for the Royal Society of Arts as a representative for the RSA in Mid Sussex, and the work I've done with schools, colleges, young artists, established artists, I think it's a shame we still, after 25 years living in the area, we still don't have anything that represents the culture and the artistic potential that the town has to offer. I mean, as I say, I can go on for ages, but I think hopefully that sums up what I'm trying to say here. I have a passion for what could be done, and I really hope we can do something in the wake of Clare Hall.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alison Ryan. Right, that's the end of the public representation during this meeting, and we'll move on to item 4. To confirm the minutes of the meeting of the council held on the 20th of July 2020.
Agreed.
Do I get agreement?
Agreed.
Agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay. Is that a unanimous,
Agreed.
council?
Agreed.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll take that as unanimous. Item 5, to dispose of any business outstanding from the last meeting. Can I refer to the clerk, please?
Yes, thank you. Just to update you on the actions from the last meeting, with regards to the 20-mile-an-hour zone grant application, we made inquiries into that, and it transpired that the projects needed to be ready to go off the shelf and researched. And as I said in the last meeting, there are over 245 applications made on the first tranche, and only 7 went forward. So an application wasn't made, but what happened was that the project and the wishes of the town council was noted by the county council and will be looked at as part of the town centre master plan and the Atkins reports when they come forward. You'll also be aware that there was representation sent to Mid Sussex District Council with regards to the Victoria Park Master Plan, which was completed, and there was a representation sent on the standards boards and code of conduct, which was sent to you by the Government Association. Those actions are all completed. That disposes of the actions from the last meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Clark. Right, can we go on to item 6, please, which is to note the mayoral of engagements and any announcements. In our socially distanced world at the moment, there's not too much going on in my diary, but a few weeks ago I laid a wreath from the town council to mark the 80th anniversary, of the Battle of Britain with Haywards Heath 172 Squadron Air Cadets. I've also sort of the War Memorial for observing 2 minutes silence for Merchant Navy Day. The clerk and I have been in discussions with, just as an update to the emergency food hub that we started some time ago now, 3 or 4 months ago. We've been in discussions with Mutual Aid, Haywards Heath. Obviously, they've actually mothballed themselves, and we're now talking to them every month with a view to them re-engaging with their volunteers and obviously managing the emergency food hub once again when the need is there. And yes, the need could well be there fairly soon, which is a terrible thing to think, but we do have emergency food supplies for families who really need the food. So they would come out of mothball or being mothballed at the appropriate time. That's something that's ongoing. We've got monthly Zooms with the leaders there. And on the 12th of October, the date for your diary, we've got the first Mayor's Forum, which is on Black Lives Matter. I'm inviting a number of leaders from the town, and we're going to discuss what Haywards Heath can potentially do, and also what they can do within their organisations around Black Lives Matters. And we'll see how that plays out. But I think it's a real opportunity to understand where our town is on with regard to that very present issue. Right. That's it from me from the mayoral engagements. Item 7, to receive and consider and adopt resolutions of the following committees. Can I ask Councillor Laban to come forward? Over to you. You're on mute. Councillor Laban, you're on mute. Sorry, you're still, yeah.
A slight technology struggle here.
Yeah, don't worry, don't worry.
Sorry, I've got about 10 things up on my screen, so I'm actually struggling to find the bit of paperwork that I'm looking for.
Join the club.
Right, yeah, okay, fine. Oh, it's gone.
Do you want me to talk you through it?
I'm going to recommend, yes, yes, please, Mayor, thank you very much.
Okay. The Planning Committee held on the 27th of July 2020, minutes 25 to 32. Do you want to adopt those?
I'm recommending to the committee, and hopefully they will be seconded, that the committee adopt the following resolutions. And if you kindly read them for me, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah.
For the numbers.
Can I interject here?
Please.
Yeah, I will do it.
Okay.
So we are looking for a motion moving forward the meeting of the 27th of July 2020, minutes 25 to 32. The minutes of the meeting 17th of August 2020, minutes 33 to 40, and the minutes of the meeting 7th of September, minutes 41 to 48. I look at those to be moved by yourself, Councillor Band, and then seconded.
They're moved accordingly. Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I would like to second those. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just to confirm, those 3 minutes, there were no substantive items over and above the planning applications that were heard by the committee, who made comments to Miss Sussex District Council within the statutory timeframes laid down for responses to planning applications.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask for Councillor Jeffers to come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to propose that we move and adopt the minutes from the Environment and General Purpose Committee held on the 1st of September 2020, minutes 10 to 18.
Thank you very much. Can I ask
Sorry, in the absence of Councillor Ellis, I need a seconder, please.
Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, I'll second those.
It would need to be a member of the committee, Councillor Pulfer.
Oh,
Sorry, I'd like to second that. I couldn't get myself off mute. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Crowley. As per your agendas, I need you to resolve minute 14,
Agreed.
Agreed.
minute 15,
Agreed.
Agreed.
minute 16,
Agreed.
Agreed.
1 and 2.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Knight lastly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move and adopt Policy and Finance Committee 7th of September minutes 2020, minutes 12 to 21, please.
I would like to second that.
And I'd like members again, as per your agenda, to move minute 16,
Agreed.
17,
Agreed.
18,
Agreed.
Agreed.
19
Agreed.
Agreed.
and 20.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 8, to consider arrangements for Remembrance Sunday and Schools Remembrance Service 2020. Right, the clerk, please.
As members are aware, we are in a very difficult time with regards to social gathering and events. And as the council has worked its way through the year since the end of February, beginning of March, we've cancelled all of our events this year. Obviously, the most poignant and the most respective and sensitive event that we do hold is the Remembrance Sunday service in partnership with the Royal British Legion. We are taking advice on such events from the Lord Lieutenancy's office. We're also talking about it amongst the clerks in the district, and there are wider forums going on. At the present time, when this report was written, the rule of 6 was the rule, and social gathering was not allowed legally. And you will see that today's events will probably lead us to be into tighter restrictions come the middle of next week. But we have done successfully as a town council, led by the town mayor, as you saw during the VE celebrations. We have embraced the virtual world, and we have been using the new technologies that we've all embraced to promote and mark these events in a certain way. When this report was written, I was looking at the rule of six, and I was looking towards those people who normally lead on our ceremonies, and at that point I made the suggestions in this report. Obviously tomorrow may bring more news, as I just said, but I'm asking members at the moment, and I'll reserve officers and legal and legislative reasons nearer the time, that we move towards a virtual ceremony, a small ceremony held at the War Memorial that can be recorded and sent out live for residents to watch, and we will mark the occasion. I have been in liaison with the Queen's representative, Sir Richard Kleinwort. I've spoken to the Royal British Legion, and as you'll see, which is an aside note to this report, that I've also been talking to Reverend Ray Smith, St Wilfrid's Church, who has administered the event for the last 10 years since I've been town clerk, and way before that. So where we're at the moment is we're looking at this rule of six, and we're looking at the event, how we can hold it. As you will see, Reverend Smith will be retired then after 24 years service to Haywards Heath, and Reverend Sargent, who is the Royal British Legion's chaplain, has agreed to move things forward at least for this year and into the future until we see what transpires for a replacement for Reverend Smith. What I'm asking for, which I have to ask for at the moment, because obviously this report was written within the legal timeframes for sending out of agendas, is that you agree to the recommendations in the report, so that obviously we do not hold a schools remembrance service this year because schools are working in bubbles, and having every school in the town, including the secondary schools, cannot be accommodated in the church, and also the mixing of the schools wouldn't be in order. I'm also asking that we reserve our rights, but we look at a very small gathering of no more than 5 or 6 at the War Memorial at the moment, if we're still allowed to by November, and that be recorded. And the most difficult thing is, this is an event that we don't have to market. We have a gathering of up to around 1,000 people each year at Muster Green, and this is an event we're going to have to demarket this year and ask that people stay away. So again, I think I make members aware that that's going to happen. And I also ask that we mark and acknowledge the service that Reverend Ray Smith has given to this community over the last 24 years, and we'll make a small payment, or not payment, or a payment towards a gift to Reverend Ray Smith to acknowledge his service to the town, along with the town shield that myself and the town mayor will somehow get to him before he leaves in mid-October. So that's really where we are. So we're just really looking at how we can mark this significant event appropriately and within the realms of the current climate we find ourselves in. And I welcome members' comments.
Please, does anybody have anything to say on that? Any views?
Councillor Bates.
Okay, Councillor Bates.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, obviously, I support what was said about Reverend Smith, but I would like to know a bit more about the gathering. Well, we're talking about 6. I did learn today, I was trying to attend a sort of an event, and they talked about 30 people being allowed, so some clarification there. And the other thing was that as a district council there, I have been asked to try and fill in and help out at various church events on that day, and I said I would do if there wasn't anything I could do in Haywards Heath. I don't know if there's going to be any church service at all in Haywards Heath, but I just sort of flagged that up.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bates. Any other comments?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I may, so I have, I'm keeping a note of who has raised their blue hand in order. If I could just ask, once you've finished speaking, to lower your blue hand so that we can move on from there. Next speaker, Mr. Mayor, is Councillor Laban. Councillor Laban, please.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, I'm not a churchgoer, but I live close to the church. I'm very cognizant of the role and the support that Ray Smith has given to the community over the years, and so I think that's a very noble idea. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Councillor Inglesfield.
Yes, thank you. So I'm very supportive of the idea of doing it virtually and to film it and to have 6 guests. Now, just a point of detail, let's imagine that we can only have, the rule of 6 is still in. You might need 5 guests plus a photographer because you mentioned that you wanted it to be filmed. And my last comment is that if we do have one of our guests who cannot come, can that guest be replaced by someone who brings a little bit more variety? You know, we could have maybe a young recruit, or we could have someone who brings a bit of variety into the mix. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Councillor Wickramarchi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say a few words about Reverend Ray Smith. I wish him all the very best because he was very, very supportive of me when I was mayor, when I was town mayor, and he also arranged the civic service for me as well, and he did a fantastic job, which raised a lot of money. So I thank him for all his contribution to the town and to our town council and to all our residents. So I wish him all the very best. So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments?
I would just like to, if I may, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to put support behind everything that's written in our agenda here. I think that we have actually been asked to consider and agree whether to cancel or resolve an alternative way to hold this year's Remembrance Sunday service for schools. Remembrance Sunday service is in there, so I think we need to put that in place. My view on this is absolutely we must hold an alternative way. It's far too important to cancel in any way whatsoever. But in view of the clerk's second recommendation, yes, we should obviously have to make this decision in line with changes to government advice. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I too support the recommendations. So I think that's all. Mr. Clark, please.
I picked up on 4 points during the representations of members, and I go back to Councillor Bates's two points that he made. Obviously, yes, we are liaising and we're waiting to take advice from the SALC, which is the Sussex Association of Local Councils, via NALC. And obviously, but at the moment, we're working on the 6 persons rule, because that's the rules at the moment that says that 6 people can gather outside or inside. So that's where it was our starting point. Obviously, if things improve, we can widen that remit. It's also the fact is this: we don't want to promote mass gathering where we would normally like to. So, saying that's the starting point that we discussed as Miss Sussex Clerks. The other issue you raised there was the church service. The church service we have for the schools, normally, which Mrs. Hewitt and Miss Stevens are organising, our officers, that normally would hold 150 people. The maximum that can be held in St Wilfrid's Church at the moment is 50 with social distancing inside. So again, that service won't be held. But again, the other thing is we don't normally attend a church service on actual Remembrance Sunday because the town council doesn't have the resources to man 2 places at once with all the road closures and what we get up to. So you are right, Councillor Bates, there are things that we should be doing, and we will look at the numbers nearer the time, but this is just a starting point so members can understand that, you know, the gathering up, the formations and the bands that we're used to, and the road closures, they just will not be able to go ahead this year at the present time. Councillor Ingersfield points as us parish and town clerks, jack of all trades. So I will be holding the video camera and doing the live feeds. So that will be my job on the day. And I totally agree with the idea of diversity and equality. And of course that we will look for somebody else to join us if we can. But obviously the first point was those people who have 6 people chosen have served us year on year without fail. And I just thought that they would be the most appropriate to start off the invitation list. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right, so on to item 9, I believe now, to receive a motion first 2020.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Can you just make sure the members are agreeable to the 3 recommendations?
Sorry, okay.
Thank you.
Sorry. Where's it gone?
Page 13.
Page 13. Yeah, I've got it. Okay. Okay, so recommendations. Members are asked to consider and agree whether to cancel or resolve an alternative way to hold this year's Remembrance Sunday service and the School's Remembrance Service 2020. B, that the Town Council reserves its right to change its position and the decision made in lines with changes in government advice. And C, that the Town Council makes an acknowledgement to Reverend Ray Smith's for his service to town for the maximum of £100 from the hospitality budget. Is everyone happy, agreeable towards those?
Agreed.
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 Thank you, everyone. Okay. Right, I'll go on to item 9, please. Okay, to receive a motion from Councillor Pulfer regarding the Town Council's position in relation to Clare Hall. Right, can I ask Councillor Pulfer to explain the motion, please, and propose it?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors will have seen the item 9 paper, which the clerk has set out the background. I think it's just relevant to mention one or two other things that, without doubt, in its day, Clare Hall was an icon, and possibly in some people's eyes still is. But I think most people and we've had that confirmed by a public speaker, Mr. Nigel Ryan, that effectively there's a view that, regrettably, Clare Hall is past its sell-by date and is not fit for purpose. I'd ask councillors too, just to consider one or two, what I feel is more pertinent points, is to whether to spend £1 million plus of council taxpayers' money, that is yours and mine, on such an old building. I think we all realise that there have been some very prudent housekeeping by MSDC over the years, which has allowed them to open the leisure services amongst other things. But the pocket is not bottomless. And I think that we need to understand what services can be continued and at what expense. And one has to say, is £1 million the right thing at this minute in time to be spending on a building which, when still done, will be 50 years old, not fit for purpose? And I would suggest that what we need to do is to have a serious review of the facilities provided by Clare Hall, and put those into the needs of an expanding town, meeting today's and future generations' need, and to include these requirements to a new, exciting offering for the future regeneration of the project. And on that basis, Mr. Mayor and councillors, I recommend the resolution to you, and I reserve my right to make further comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder, Councillor Pulfer?
I'm happy to second that if you want.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm seconding that motion. I reserve my right to speak at the end. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Band.
Before I click my mute button, can we actually go through the motion and read out what it is before we start debating it, please?
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to do that.
If you could.
The resolution is to note the possible permanent closure and demolition of Clare Hall and to welcome the Town Council's inclusion in re-establishing modern community facilities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your motion, Councillor Pulfer. Can I ask members for their views, please? Right. Councillor Bates, first of all, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's not surprising I got my hand up first. I've known to be the only district councillor in Haywards Heath that is supporting a little longer of Clare Hall in time for us to consult with people to design and get a new building up and running. There's no doubt about the situation with Clare Hall, but from the recent cabinet meeting, there's two aspects I would draw your attention to. A, that there is probably a lifespan of 3 years to 2023 when something seriously would have to be done with the building. But hopefully we could get a design, something up and running in those 3 years to keep the building going. Now, the other thing about this £1 million myth, now why hasn't all this money been spent up to now? And actually, there's the report of the cabinet says £1 million over 20 years, when the building's only going to be lasting 3 years. So it doesn't add up whatsoever. So basically, I'm putting forward a contra recommendation in 3 parts. The essence of it being that we all want a Clare Hall type facility in the town to serve the community, that we should be able to run it for a few more years until we get something sorted out on what's going to replace it. And also recognising with the situation that we have at the moment that you're probably going to need a different type of management to run it in those that period of time. So I have written and submitted to the clerk and yourself, Mr. Mayor, the alternative resolution. So I'm not too sure if you want me to actually read it all out.
Yes, please, could you?
Okay, the resolution that you had, instead of that resolution, I would like to say the 3 points are that Haywards Heath Town Council recognises that Mid Sussex District Council, as part of the Haywards Heath Regeneration Master Plan, intends to replace Clare Hall. 2, that Haywards Heath Town Council feels that Clare Hall can still operate as it is at present, subject to the COVID-19 restrictions, and until a new complex has been agreed. And finally, that a different form of management is needed to facilitate the events at Clare Hall when it will open again. Now, subject to all of this, this is going to go to other places, all of what we're discussing this evening. So this is not the first bite of the cherry I'm going to get on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bates. Do you have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Inglesfield.
Mayor, can I interrupt on a point of order? Have we got 3 separate amendments? Because I'm rather confused as what the proposal from Councillor Bates is.
Sorry, there is one amendment.
Yeah.
There is one amendment that Councillor Bates has just read out. Okay. Great, thank you. Can I ask members? Sorry, has somebody got something to say?
Sorry, Town Mayor. Can I just interject here and just explain the order of what's going to happen?
Please do.
So Councillor Pulfer's motion was put forwarded and it was seconded. Councillor Bates's motion has now countered that motion by Councillor Pulfer and has been seconded. So members are now going to be asked to debate Councillor Bates's motion, and then we will see where we go from there. If that motion is approved, then the Councillor Bates motion goes forward. If Councillor Bates's motion does not succeed, we will go back to the first substantive motion that was read by Councillor Pulfer.
Thank you very much.
Point of order, Mayor.
Councillor Ash Edwards, yeah.
Standing orders specifies that an amendment is a proposal to remove or add words to a motion. My view is that Councillor Bates' motion is rather different. It's not adding or removing words from Councillor Pulfer's motion.
Okay, thank you for that. Sorry, can I hang on? I'm talking to the clerk, if that's okay. I have an earpiece, okay? Thank you. Right, sorry about that, everyone. I'm going to say, please, can we debate the amendment that's just been made by Councillor Richard Bates, please? Thank you. Do you want me to go through it again? It's around that Hayward Heath Town Council recognises that Mid Sussex District Council, as part of the Hayward Heath Regeneration Master Plan, intends to replace Clare Hall. That Hayward Heath Town Council feels Clare Hall is can still operate at present, subject to COVID-19 restrictions, and that a different form of management is needed to facilitate events at Clare Hall. Right, please, can we? Are there any comments from anyone?
Mayor, it's in order in your message.
Right, Councillor Langley. Is that okay? Councillor Nicholson.
Thank you. Yeah, several points I wanted to call out regarding this. First of all, the degree of consultation with the Hayward Heath communities that use Clare Hall has been abysmal. There's been 2,000 signatures in support of retaining Clare Hall, and I'm surprised that hasn't been mentioned on the call today. I'd also point out that the shutting down Clare Hall without an identified facility which is superior and available now is violates both MSDC's own district plan and also our own Hayward Heath town neighbourhood plan. Whilst there's been sort of various conversations about what could be used, couldn't be used, there are 9 or so different places around Hayward Heath. There's nothing tangible has been put on the table as a replacement facility which is superior to Clare Hall. And the frequently stated soundbite that Hayward Heath College can be used is untrue. The other thing I'd like to point out is that Clare Hall is, whilst it's an old building, has a utilisation rate which is above 50% annually, which for an old decrepit building in a community actually says that people use it, okay, and will continue to use it. And the final point I'd like to make is that, actually I think I've covered all those points off. So in general, I'm supportive of Bates' amendment to this, but I would emphasise that we need to talk with the local communities more as to what they actually want. With that, I think I've said my piece.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wickham Marchie, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wholeheartedly support Councillor Pulford's motion.
Sorry, can I just say, with the greatest respect, we are debating. We're not debating Councillor Pulford's motion. We are debating the motion from Councillor Bates.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. My concerns are, I mean, yes, the replacement of Clare Hall should be a new community facility rather than spend any more money on this hall. I mean, if you can see, it's been closed for over 6 months. So unfortunately, I won't be able to support Councillor Bates' motion. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Inglesfield, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I think there has been very little scrutiny on this decision. You know, when I hear things like most people agree with the destruction of Clare Hall, and most people is Nigel Ryan. He's a wonderful gentleman, Nigel Ryan, but he's not most people. There has been petitions, thousands of people have voted in favor of Clare Hall, or at least of something equal or hopefully better. The £1 million that has been spoken about at this minute, I'm quoting Councillor Pulford, £1 million to be spent at this minute in time, is actually, according to the cabinet report is over 20 years. So it will be money, it will be more like 50,000 a year. And let's not forget, this is education, this is culture. This is not a cost. This is an investment in the community. So also it's the fact that it's not fit for purpose and that it's not, it's a place, it originally, it was built for education and entertainment, which is pretty much what it's doing. The argument that the booking rate is going down, well, I'm very surprised about that because I had many people approaching me saying to me that their bookings have been turned away. So like many of the numbers that have been flouted about, I think they need to be scrutinized. What needs also to be scrutinized is the booking diary of Clare Hall. So these are all things that we all need to look into. Talking about the destruction of our cultural center as an opportunity, I'm going to ask you an opportunity for whom? Is this a piece of land up for grabs at the moment? I don't know. To also speak about COVID-19, COVID-19 is a temporary problem. Destroying Clare Hall is a permanent destruction, especially because nobody has any plans lined up to build something better. We don't have a piece of land for it. We don't have anybody who is going to fund it or take it over. So to destroy something because we have a temporary problem, I say it's unacceptable. And frankly, to call it an opportunity to take our Clare Hall and to call this an opportunity and to turn it into a car park, frankly, it's a joke. I mean, aren't we considered to be better in Hebrides? Aren't we worthy of education and culture? I think it's really grim for the future of the town and for the future of our children. So unless we have a proposal signed, budgeted, and funded, we cannot destroy Clare Hall. So let's keep it going till we can finally boast of something better. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Band.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to try and pick my way through this if I possibly can, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I think splitting it into three parts is the easiest way to eat this elephant, in as much as that Councillor Bates' motion, it doesn't appear to be an amendment, so I'm kind of not happy the way that it's come forward in this way, but still. The proposal that I think the first part said that Clare Hall, we should have this type of facility somewhere in the town. That was more or less it on the first sentence of the motion. Is that correct?
The council recognises MSDC as part of Haywards Heath Regeneration Master Plan intends to replace Clare Hall.
I think when Councillor Bates actually read through it, he basically said that he wants to actually see that somewhere in the town. And certainly I'd fully agree with that. I don't think there's a councillor here tonight that wouldn't want to see the a Clare Hall replacement or Clare Hall facilities that actually improve our offering for the community somewhere in the town. And I'd fully agree with that sentiment. I think the Mid Sussex District Council's cabinet meeting referred to actually changes to the management and how it's run in the future would also be on the table. And so I think the only bit I do have is the third part of the motion stroke amendment, which recognises the facility should stay there. And frankly, that's wishful thinking. It's all very well to actually kind of spend money that we don't control, and it's not about money. The town deserves better. This is a utility resource which has less than 50,000 people visit it every year. The numbers have steadily declined, The average use is 83 people. 30% of the people that visit Clare Hall go there for yoga, which I'm not dismissing yoga because it's a wonderful activity, but I'm trying to actually put it into context. Clare Hall was built by our grandparents, and for my father and for me to use as a family. And I live just up the road from Clare Hall. Like many people in the town, it's very, very clear that if I want to actually go and see an act or an event which is on Clare Hall, the first thing I do is to see if it's on somewhere else. I don't want to drag my family down 5 minutes down the road to visit a third-rate hall and go through the pain of actually having to sit through an uncomfortable performance with poor acoustic, unsatisfactory sanitary ware, etc. It's just not a pleasant experience, and we have to get real. I've spoken to many residents who've complained to me quite heartfelt that they mourn the loss of Clare Hall, and certainly I agree with them. But I'm not looking for excuses to actually keep it. What I'm looking for from residents is actually a better facility for the future and a better town. And just saying we don't like something and trying to pour money into effectively a hole in the ground isn't economic for the town or our future. So I'm going to vote against this amendment. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much. Councillor Langley, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to keep this short. I'd like to echo Councillor Bates' sentiments somewhat, and it's specifically the lack of firm commitment and future plans for the area that I find personally the most troubling. And it would be remiss of me, considering the history with the Burgess Hill Mart and what happened there. So I support Councillor Bates' new motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Nicholson. Councillor Nicholson. You're on mute, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, no, I'm fine.
Okay, okay. Councillor Bates.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really have to come back on Councillor Band. He's
point of order, Mayor. Councillor Bates is the proposer, and we're going through the debate, and other members have spoken.
Okay, sorry,
I totally agree with Councillor Band.
Okay, apologies. Can we go to Councillor Jeffers, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to come back on one point regarding, I think Councillor Inglesfield mentioned that COVID is temporary and so on and so forth. I fully appreciate that and totally agree with it. But I think that the financial situation that COVID has brought us is not temporary. It may be very long-term temporary, could be argued, but it is still a desperately difficult financial situation that the economy in general finds itself in, and everybody. I'd also argue that whilst COVID is temporary, I think that the repercussions of what happens subsequent to that will not be. So to take my personal thought process into this, I would commute to London prior to COVID. I would spend a lot of time in the evenings with my entertainment being in London, going after work to visit the cinema, the theatre, whatever that I could there. I do not believe that COVID's temporary point will mean that our working lives and our home lives will be temporary in that manner. So I personally believe that we will find ourselves in a situation in 10, 20, 5, 10, 15, 20 years time, where actually all of that entertainment and those things will be in our hometowns. And for that purpose, I believe that a venue and a building that is currently not fit to take on the kind of performances that you may see in the West End or in concert halls in London that people go and attend, I think an upgrade is what we require. I don't disagree that it needs to be handled in the correct manner, But I do think that that progression from a hall that was built so long ago needs to be able to be put in place and needs to handle that increased demand, increased usage that we need to look at. I just wanted to, I guess, combat in some form and come back, Councillor Inglefield, on the point of COVID there as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any more discussion points?
Yes, I've got my hand up.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I took my eye off the list because I was speaking myself. So we have Councillor Evans.
Councillor Evans.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just want to support the comments made by Councillor Jeffers. It kind of stole my thunder in terms of the way he expressed and what he expressed about the situation, especially in regard the financial aspect and the long-term impact that the virus will have on lives and the way we operate, and should really put the situation of Clare Hall into a different perspective, that we do really need to be shrewd with our finances, commitment, and ensuring the town has a better facility. I think that's what we all want. And also, I'd like to support Councillor Laban's comments, which are very clear. I thoroughly agree with that as well. So I cannot support Councillor Bates's motion. That's what I want to say.
Mr. Mayor, next to speak is Councillor Munden.
Councillor Munden.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I have to say that Councillor Jeffers has taken much of what I wanted to say about the suitability of the venue there. But I also have to say I have some empathy with what Councillor Bates has said about prolonging Clare Hall until we're at least a lengthy stage down the road in our planning towards a much more fit for purpose unit. However, the big concern I have about that is we focused on a lot of maintenance. Many of you will know I've come from a healthcare background, and I know absolutely the regulations for public spaces is increasing dramatically. In my own employment, a very large area of a hospital has had to be closed down because of the presence of asbestos, which, given the age of Clare Hall, is going to be everywhere. There's also the concern about legionnaires for people visiting somewhere like Clare Hall. In all this discussion, I've not seen either an environmental or a health report in regard to its continuing usage. So for that regard, unfortunately, I would not accept Councillor Bates' amendment, although having some significant empathy with it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any
Councillor Cromie.
Councillor Cromie.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to pick up on the language we've been using around COVID being a temporary problem, and I do hope with all my heart that it is a temporary problem, but I don't think any of us here can categorically look into our ball and understand where we will be next month, let alone in the next 6 months or the next year. And with that in mind, looking at opening a building that would encourage crowds to come in at a period of time where theatres are closing up and down the country, and renowned theatres are struggling financially. I think with our diligence to the taxpayer, we need to be realistic about where we're living in. Now, if we were looking outside of COVID, and this was just a question of opening a building in ordinary circumstances while we found somewhere else, then actually that might have some merit, but we're not in ordinary circumstances. We're in the middle of a pandemic of which we don't know where we will be from 1 week to the next. Councillor Inglefield mentioned and got quite angry around the wording of opportunity. And we talked about a legacy for children, but actually I have a very budding theatrical daughter. And when I look at where we are now, I want to use this downtime, this opportunity where we have our hands behind our back, to think about what that legacy will be, not just looking at a modern, flexible, multi-purpose building for our children to use, but actually looking at the fact that we might be working with a virus and with all sorts of social distancing in our future for many years to come. So looking at the way we use our space, making it flexible so that when we do have to do social distancing, it can still be profitable and it still can be attractive for people to come and people feel safe there. So that's why I am really focused on the future plans, the opportunity that we come together as a community and look to what we can bring in this time, so that when our children look back, they see that we use this opportunity to be creative, to be forward thinking, and to have a future-proof building, and that we didn't just open Clare Hall again and had this conversation in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years time. I think we need to be bold and brave in this moment, and I do really embrace the word opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Inglesfield, Mr. Mayor.
Unfortunately, Councillor Inglesfield, I've heard from you, so you can't go for a second time.
Okay, so then there was Councillor Nicholson, who I assume the same applies to.
Yeah, sorry.
In that case, we have no further comment.
Okay, so my thoughts are, looking at the motion, yeah, I think...
Mr. Mayor, excuse me. Councillor Jim Knight has had his hand up for some little while.
That was only for the main motion, Councillor Pulfer.
Oh, was it? Okay. Then perhaps we might take our blue hands down. It's confusing for everybody.
Thank you, Councillor Pulfer. Right. So I'm just collecting my thoughts. So looking at this resolution, I think there are some, I think there are some positive elements around a different form of management, and this, recognising that we need MSDC do intend to replace Clare Hall. I think that's good. But as far as operating, continuing to operate, I don't know really how viable that is in the current state, given that it does need such an upgrade. In summing up, we've heard all the possible arguments to keep Clare Hall open. The usage is still relatively high. But as far as the closure, in order to keep it going over the next few years, it's going to cost an awful lot of money that could be spent on another venue. So money is there, really is there, is a real issue. Right, I think the best way forward is to ask the clerk. Can we go for a vote, please, clerk?
Yeah, if we take this to a vote, what I will do is I will ask you to raise your hands and I will read out the names of the councillors and give an opportunity to contradict what I've said. So I will take those that are for Councillor Bates's motion, please, by show of hands. Okay, so I have Councillor Bates, Councillor Inglesfield and Councillor Langley and Councillor Nicholson. And those against? Take Councillor Wickham-Arachi, Councillor Mundin, McPherson, Knight, Pulfer, Cromie, Ash Edwards, Jeffers and Labands. That's 10-4, that's a 10-4 vote. So that means we go back to the original substantive motion put forward by Councillor Pulfer.
Okay, right. Can we, Clark, should we just quickly go over that motion again?
I'll suggest that would be prudent.
Yeah, okay, so the resolution is for this this original motion is to note the possible permanent closure and demolition of Clare Hall and to welcome the Town Council's inclusion in re-establishing modern community facilities. Right. Okay, can I ask again for members' views, please?
Yeah, you have Councillor Knight first, I think, if you still...
Okay, Councillor Knight, wherever you are.
Currently on mute. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A lot has been said, of course, in the amendment discussing Councillor Bates' amendment, but my point of view, it's hard to believe it's nearly 50 years ago. I think I'm probably one of the oldest here who used to frequent Clare Hall on a Friday, Saturday night evening during my now long distant, irrepressible youth. Some of you may remember John Bosco and Johnny Kyle, the local celeb DJs who drew in the crowds here. And in fact, I met with Johnny Carney a few days ago. We reminisced over old stories, and he shared with me many photos of the gigs at the hall. He reminded me this was Clare Hall's heyday back in the 70s. And prior to this, the local dance and entertainment venue was Sussex Hall in South Road, which itself became not fit for purpose, and so things were moved to Clare Hall. Johnny, like me, with me, is naturally nostalgic about here and many other disused venues, and like me considers Clare Hall no longer fit for purpose. Essentially, the main hall was really for dancing, which, unless you are a fan of Strictly Come Dancing, it really has fallen out of favour. I can understand people's nostalgia for Clare Hall and a small tempest amongst a few to keep it going, but let's face it, this is not the Globe Theatre. You know, the Greeks and the Romans were not wrong when they built amphitheatres with permanent seating looking down on the stage. With Clare Hall, you have to crick your neck looking up to the stage on hard seats that have to be wheeled out depending on the performance. Many of the smaller type bookings can easily be accommodated in other local community centres around the town, including the Town Hall, Ashton Ground Community Centre, etc., who are currently missing their revenue and would give them a great boost. Love did live here, but it is now empty inside and it's feeling no pain. Let us now build something new, a modern, eco-friendly cultural venue supporting all the arts, as you like it. So this doesn't become much to do about nothing, and love's labours are not lost here. We can and must have a cultural venue in Haywards that we are proud of and that the people deserve. And surely all's well that ends well. I know every Conservative town councillor supports these positive aims. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I can't see a list. Sorry.
Councillor
Jeff.
Bates.
Sorry?
Councillor Bates.
Councillor Bates, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought you were actually going to come back to me at the end of the other part.
Yeah, I think everybody had a fair crack of the whip.
I just wanted to point out that Councillor Band has a way about dreaming up things that I said that I didn't, about replacing the Clare Hall in some other part of the town. I didn't mention that at all.
Okay.
But what I would say is, in relation, it's very interesting to hear what Jim Knight or Councillor Knight said there about the heydays. Of course, I do go back myself to the Sussex Hall and remember the fantastic pantomimes they had there. But and it's great that he's mentioning about the cultural venue, which is exactly what we do need in the future. It's an all-embracing centre. It could be a hub for Mid Sussex, the heart of Mid Sussex, and for a lot of people to come from a long way around if the right sort of building was built. I visit one in London, which is it's a very nice building. It does everything there, and it could be scaled down and probably brought to Mid Sussex. Now, on Thursday, the 24th of September, I have a blood donor session in Clare Hall. I should turn up for it, but I haven't been told if it's there or not or somewhere else. I do know somebody that can't go to the Clare Hall one. She's being sent to Adastra Hall in Hassocks and she can't go. So that means there's probably one or two people at least, and they're crying out for blood donations at the moment. And that's where Clare Hall is such a useful asset to the community. That's just one example. And another example is I go to an awful lot of entertainment venues over the years, hundreds of places. And I do use the Clare Hall. I saw an international artist there, and he's travelling around the world. I noticed he's now going to get booked into Upfield Civic Centre in November. He would have come to Clare Hall again. So, you know, we could all dream up all of these ideas of what it's used for now and could still continue. And the point I was making, and it's not really been discussed this evening, There's the immediate use and the time scale. Nobody is actually saying when they're going to deliver a plan for something else to replace it. We can all sit here and say, oh yes, that would be very nice, etc., etc., and debate a future building. But in the meantime, we need something to use now. And that is the whole crux of, was the crux of my particular amendment. And therefore, I'm not going to be supporting the main motion because it says nothing.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Jeffers, who's next?
Councillor Wickrell-Marachi.
Councillor
Thank you.
Wickrell-Marachi, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm reading a statement from Councillor Sandy Ellis. Unfortunately, she has sent her apologies, but am I permitted to read her statement, Mr. Mayor?
Hang on.
It's no problem.
Councillor Wickham-Archie, you're more than welcome to read the statement, but obviously as Councillor Ellis is not present, that obviously that it won't be taken into account if there's any vote, but you're at liberty to say whatever you want to a meeting, Councillor, so
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you, Clark. So this is what Councillor Ellis's statement says, and then I'll say mine. I'm supporting the motion for the closure of redevelopment of Clare Hall. I'm passionate about having a community hub that is inclusive for all community needs and which will support the next generation of creativity. Haywards Heath needs to invest in modern facilities that will support the arts and culture of our community. A hub needs to be inviting space with great atmosphere that brings families and friends together through shared experiences. Clare Hall has long passed its best, and the town and its community needs a cultural space fit for the next generation. Before COVID-19, I was contacted by Max Cooper, founder of the Cooper Collection. Max was born in Haywards Heath. His collection of works have been shown in New York, Museum of Contemporary Art, Antwerp, the Sprengel Museum of Modern Art, Hanover, and the Leckenberg Museum of Sculpture. His programs are made up of live events, new artist exhibitions, discussions, and educational collaborations. We need to celebrate our local artists and share their knowledge. I have met with Max, who is keen to share his artistic work with Haywards Heath, but we desperately need a venue that entertains, educates, and is a place of pride to celebrate all our cultures. Artists are present in every community, and we need to supply the best platform for public use. And this is from Councillor Ellis. And I share her sentiments thoroughly, and I honestly feel that Haywards Heath needs a new Clare Hall, a new modern Clare Hall, which will help all our youngsters and all of us as a venue. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Next, Councillor Jeffers.
It was myself, actually.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just wanted to reiterate, I think, what we're talking about here. We are, in terms of the motion that has been posed by Councillor Pulfer, it is, one part of it is that we are pleased to note that MSDC are finalising Haywards Heath Regeneration Master Plan, which will include commissioning work for re-establishing modern community facilities, and the council will be a consultee. I think that in reference to Councillor Baines's point of he doesn't think that there has been sufficient notice about the blood donor point, he doesn't know what's going to happen at this point forwards. I think fundamentally that none of us here do, but I would question as a district councillor whether or not he ought to know that more than some of us on the town council. We, however, are not in a position where we can issue the public with that kind of information. We can't furnish them with that. What we want to do here and what we're trying to do this evening is to put forward a very strong message from the town hall and the Haywards Heath Town Council that we absolutely must and will not settle for anything less than some kind of facility that represents all the aspects that Clare Hall currently provides: theatre, art, music, every single one. And I think that is what we need to be doing this evening. That is our job as a town council, is to make sure that we back that up. And if we do not, we are not doing our role correctly. And for that purpose, I absolutely support Councillor Pulfer's motion. And I would say that the most important part of it is ensuring that we as Haywards Heath Town Council will be a consultee. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Next was Councillor Inglesfield.
Councillor Inglesfield.
Thank you. So maybe it is true that Clare Hall is no Coliseum, but
Sorry, Councillor, can I interrupt you? A point of order. Can the member not speaking please mute themselves so that at least I can hear a bit better, please? Thank you.
Thank you.
so Clare Hall is no Coliseum. That's fine. But if you want some ancient wisdom, you should know that it is much easier to demolish than to build. And the problem here is that we're going to demolish something and we have no plans to rebuild. All the good words that I hear tonight, they go to my heart, but I'm sorry, they are a pie in the sky. And as long as I don't see the money in the bank to build a new Clare Hall, as long as I don't see a signature on paper to rebuild a modern Clare Hall, I will never believe it. And as Councillor Jeffreys points out, indeed, COVID-19 has changed many things forever, including the finances of local authorities. So Councillor Jeffreys himself says there is probably no money in the coffer for something like building a modern Clare Hall. So what we should do is keep Clare Hall and keep it going. We know how much it's going to cost us. And when we finally have the money and the commitment and the signature on a piece of paper, then we can go forward. Because tonight, all I've heard, it's not about a state-of-the-art Clare Hall. It will be wonderful. All I've heard is some world-beating promise, and we know what they are worth. Thank you.
Councillor Cromie.
Councillor Cromie.
Thank you. This week I met with some passionate and community-focused residents and was completely enthralled by their passion and their commitment to their local community, and sympathised and actually agree with quite a lot of what they had to say and what they brought to the table. But I want to take a long-term view on this. Councillor Jeffers most definitely didn't say there wasn't that there was no money to build a new facility. In fact, all of the conversations that we've had on this meeting so far have been looking at what can we put in the future that doesn't just serve the community, doesn't just serve our children, but also brings us more in line with local businesses. We want something to come in this period of time where we essentially will be really pulling down the blinds and trying to get through what is going to be a harsh recession. We need to do everything we can for our local businesses, and we haven't spoken about what a arts and community facility could do for our local businesses. And I think that's really important that we actually focus that and focus our minds on that. We've spoken about a new venue and concern was expressed around timing. What I'd really like to hope that all of us would be united in ensuring that we have a timely delivery of a fit for purpose facility that helps our young people grow, that supports our local businesses, and that all of our community groups feel like they have ownership, they have a say, and they use it. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next? Councillor Jeffers, who's next?
Sorry, Councillor Nicholson.
Councillor Nicholson, please.
Thank you. There is a clear inconsistency in the arguments that have been made this evening. So, as pointed out by Councillor Ilmsford, on the one hand, you know, we're talking about state-of-the-art future facilities to, you know, bring people into Hayward Heath. And on the other hand, we're saying we can't afford to keep the present Clare Hall facility going. So those two statements are clearly incompatible, okay, given the time frames we're talking about in terms of 2029 or whatever for extending Clare Hall. So there's only one way out of that conundrum, which we all know. And the point is, and the way that you do that is that you demolish Clare Hall and you build residential flats on the site. And then from a skim off the top of residential sites, you put in something which you claim meets the requirements for the local community. So that's where we're going, okay? Because the money isn't in the pot to build the sort of thing that we're all talking about. So the other alternative is the only other tangible plan that I've seen is car park. And fairly, you know, well-defined numbers that, you know, because it's close to Hayward Heath train station, MSDC could pull, was it 60 to 70,000 every 6 months from a charged car park? Those plans seem to be well thought out. Absolutely nothing on the table as to what we're going to get in replacement, how we pay for it, given the economic trouble we're facing over the next few years. Okay? So let's be honest with our public. Let's be honest with the local community. The final thing is, this is in direct, I'll say it again, directly contradicts our own neighbourhood plan 10.5 policy L1. We will resist the closure of Clare Hall until a suitable replacement facility exists. That's our plan. We all voted on that. We're all ignoring it.
Thank you. Right, who's next? Councillor
Labband.
Councillor Labband.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Mayor. I'm basically the last speaker then, if I'm speaking now. So there are no other members want to speak. Okay. Thank you. Whilst I welcome the well-informed comments from Mr. Alison Ryan earlier, given the amount of social media gossip and comment, I'm disappointed that at least some more of those residents offering the comments online are not with us this evening. It's very profoundly disappointing. So I'm going to extend extra thanks to Mr. Ryan for actually joining us and making that effort to be with us tonight. Thank you. This is, I think we're concentrating very much on the costs in terms of how much money's in the bank to pay for this. And I think that's profoundly misleading. This is about, if we re-establish Clare Hall and open up effectively a defunct, not fit for purpose utility, that will be just pouring money down the drain. I can't think of anything worse, and I really couldn't support that as ward councillor or in any other capacity as a resident. So continuing to provide substandard accommodation for our residents is neither sustainable nor in their best interests. I cannot support any initiative which seeks to reopen an unfit, well past its sell-by date facility that the public have overwhelmingly voted with their feet not to use. The figures don't lead to any other conclusion. The reality is that people ask themselves, well, as I said earlier, where else can I go to avoid having to go to Clare Hall? Indeed, I have the same conversation with my own family in the past when something's been on, it's in Brighton or it's in London, that's where we go. That's how we prefer to go out locally, but not to Clare Hall. We continue to support development if sustainable facilities in and around the town, which the residents need and use. These objectives are indeed enshrined in the neighbourhood plan and also in the recently adopted Destination Hayward Heath policy document by the Town Council. I'm saddened that this debate and this Clare Hall itself has become a political football to the detriment of our wider community. It's profoundly sad. Clare Hall was opened by our grandparents, for our parents and us. We are the guardians of this town, and we owe the community and our families a responsibility to deliver a better town for our children and our future generations. I'm heartened that all town councillors here this evening continue to support the need for first-class facilities in our community and at the heart of our town. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right, I think everyone has said what they want to say. Any more?
Richard Bates has just raised his hand.
Sorry?
Councillor Bates has just raised his hand.
No, I think he's had his say. Thank you. Right. So before I sum up, I'd like to make my representation. Thanks to all the speakers tonight. This is a very emotive subject. It has been for years. I've been working and discussing this with members and the public as part of our ongoing Town Council Destination Hayward Heath project now for 4 or 5 years. MSDC councillors and some of you, since 2017, we've discussed new management ideas for Clare Hall, multifunctional offerings, etc., etc. Now is a time for me to nail my colours to the mast as Mayor of Hayward Heath. I'm also a father to 2 budding musicians who play the violin, cello and piano, and wife who sang with the London Philharmonic Choir for many years and now sings with the Brighton Festival Chorus at a similar level. We all sing, play and live for the arts of our community. For me, I'm an ex-cathedral chorister, past music scholar at Hurst up the road. I've played in orchestras, written and produced musicals, and I'm a huge supporter of the arts and community, as you'll ever find. I'm more than passionate about the arts, culture and the community in my life and for Hayward Heath, and that's why I'm so excited to be here as Mayor now, finally talking publicly about the future of arts, culture and community in our great town. I've seen lots of posts and petitions about Clare Hall's future, asking us to save our theatre. If I was told we were losing our theatre, creative space, I'd be worried too. I've been to countless productions in Clare Hall. This place really means something to me, and I'll be sad to see it go. But let's be honest, it's not the state-of-the-art facility I want, we need in Hayward Heath, and it's depressing to see such a venue being underutilised. With a town as great as Hayward Heath, we need a community space that everyone wants to go to, where productions are packed, when they're allowed to be again, and when people come to Hayward Heath just to catch a show. We want to be a destination, and while Clare Hall has given us all great memories and served the community so well for over 50 years, we deserve something better now. I know change can sometimes be unsettling, and positive change, progression can take time, but this is the beginning of a journey for us all. If we don't take this opportunity, while this building must stay empty for however long it takes to beat this virus, when will we? This is not about Clare Hall closing, but about what will open instead. I want to hear from Hayward Heath. What do you want to see replace Clare Hall? Please let me know, and let's work together to give the community a facility it can enjoy for another 50 years. The conversation has started. Please let's take this opportunity and look to the future. I wholeheartedly support this motion. Thank you. Right, summing up. This is about the future and the past, okay? Again, thank you to everyone who's expressed their views this evening. This, as I said, is an emotive subject. What is best for Hayward Heath? We're looking to the future. We're looking to the future. Do we stay with what we know, or do we aspire to better things? We've heard many arguments, but whatever the outcome of this vote, please let us come together, work together for the good of our town. Thank you. I'll now ask the clerk for a vote.
again, in the same way as did before, we will take the vote for those in favour first, and then I'll go for those against afterwards. So those in favour, please raise your hands and I'll read out your names. Well, clear show of hands. Councillor Wickham-Arachi, Mundin, McPherson, Knight, Pulfer, Councillor Cromie, Ash Edwards, Jeffers, LeBand. I've missed one out. I do apologise. And McPherson. So that's 10-4. Oh, sorry, Councillor Kristen Evans. Sorry, I apologise. That's 10-4. And those against?
I actually asked this recorded vote, please, Clerk.
Yes, that's because I've read your names. I've read your names.
I was going to ask that. It should be recorded.
This meeting is being recorded, and I have read your names out.
That was the same reason I raised my hand, and it's recorded.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So those against the motion is Nicholson, Councillor Langley, Councillor Ingleswood, and Councillor Bates.
Thank you, Clerk. Right, item 10. To consider a I'll defer to the clerk. That's okay.
Item 10 follows on from this item. You'll see that we have had notice from Mid Sussex District Council in Appendix 1 of your agenda on page 18 with regards to a request that's been put forward for Clare Hall to become an asset of community value to the town. Obviously, that gives the community opportunity to bid for a plan for the town, for the Clare Hall, if that opportunity arises. And you'll see that would go on a list for 5 years. And if there's any selling of Clare Hall, there will be opportunity for 6 months for the community to make a business plan, come forward to take over the hall, as it were. And you'll see that you're being asked on this item, and I'll be very clear on this, if you have any objections to the actual Clare Hall going onto the list, as it were. We've had this before with the barn in Bolnor, which went to the planning committee. You'll see that we only have 2 weeks to make a representation. So that's what's before you this evening. So I'm asking, so members' views are sought, but we are only asking if there are any objections as such happening.
Thank you very much, Clerk. I hope you've all read the letter. Do you have any objections to this, please?
Councillor Bates has his hand up.
Councillor Bates.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I was sort of misreading your way you're going to run the meeting, but obviously I want to see this go forward as an asset for the community, because I think it does safeguard ourselves for the short term until we can sort something out, which is the argument we've been making all evening. So I welcome this as a safeguard.
Okay, do you have any objections? That's what it's asking.
Well, that was the point. Yeah, that's the point. I didn't read that you were going to do it this way, so I haven't got any objections now.
Okay. Anybody else want to say anything?
Councillor Evans, is your hand still up from a previous motion? Yeah, okay, no further comment.
Okay, so members' views are sought on the request made by Haywards Heath Community Interest Company that Clare Hall to be considered to be of value to the community and be included by Mid Sussex District Council on its list of assets of community value. Okay, this is a recommendation. Clerk, do we have to agree to it as a whole, or we just note it?
There's no recommendations. You're just noting that the application's been made. Unless you make an objection, there will be nothing else to do.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Hold on, Councillor LeBand has just raised his hand.
Okay. Councillor LeBand.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to clarify, the request is very clear that we would only make a representation if we don't agree. And bearing in mind it gives clarity and transparency to the process, I don't think any of us would want to actually voice an objection. So I've got nothing further to say.
Okay. Thank you. Right, I think that's duly noted, and we'll move on to item 11. To consider any urgent items the Mayor has received, I have none. Item 12, to consider exclusion of public and press, no. So the time is 9 o'clock, and so with that, I will close the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.